Well, of course, talking about Culturepass, New Mexico stands out as a refreshingly different, spirited blend of arts, history, and lifeways found in few other places on Earth. And this week, I am exploring the Poetics of Light Pinhole Photography exhibit at the Palace of the Governors in Santa Fe. Check it out. All right, so Daniel, tell us a little bit about pinhole photography. Trying to wrap my head around this a little bit. How exactly does pinhole photography work?
Well, the basic principle behind pinhole photography is the camera obscura, which is essentially a light-tight box with a pinhole. Light travels in a straight line. With pinhole photography, you create a light-tight box. It could be anything, as you'll see when you go in the exhibit. It could be an oatmeal can. It could be like a machined object. You have no lens. You have no viewfinder. You have no exposure meter. So you essentially have this light-tight box. You open the shutter, and the light travels in, exposes the film. That's essentially what pinhole photography is.
So this is probably the most rudimentary of cameras you'll ever see.
It is the most rudimentary of cameras.
But it captures some incredible images. Let's take a look inside, guys, come on. All right, so this piece here has got to be one of my absolute favorites in the collection. What we're looking at here, folks, is a pinhole exposure of the detonation at Trinity.
Correct. So here you have a fellow. You have all these scientists spending years in Los Alamos, just the highest possible level of science, research, if you will, and they're about to explode the first atomic bomb. And this particular scientist, Julian Mack, pulls out a pinhole camera, which is the most rudimentary of any possible instrument, and takes a photograph of the brightest flash ever produced on the face of the earth.
All right, so Dan, tell us a little bit about this piece. This almost looks like something that would come out of a performance art piece, but it's not. This is actually a camera.
This is, the idea behind Ben Conrad's pinhole suit was, what would it be like if the pores of your skin were actually cameras?
Wow.
So that was the concept, and from there he took it into this, where he puts 135 pinhole cameras on this suit, throws a tarp over himself, goes outside, whips the tarp off to make the exposure, throws the tarp back on, goes inside and develops the images. One of the things about pinhole photography you'll notice is that because you have long exposures, because you got such a tiny hole, that you can have a photograph of somebody on the beach, there's nobody else on the beach. Well, that's not true, because they're moving. They just go away. They just become a ghost image. And there's an example of that in another photograph somewhere here where, well, the accordionista photograph. The exposure is so long, so if you have somebody stand there and then after 4 seconds they move, you get this blur, and then all of a sudden a half ghost face shows up over there and you come back.
Yeah.
So you can really play with it. It became sort of an artisanal art form, if you will, getting away from fancy lenses and films and high-speed film and all that sort of thing, back to the very basics, which is a pinhole and a sheet of film.
Right, so Daniel, one might ask why this photography exhibition is at a history museum. Why is that?
Well, we have the Palace of the Governors Photo Archive, which is one of the largest collections of photography in the West. We have close to 1 million photographs. This collection, the Pinhole Resource Collection, was accumulated over 28 years by Eric Renner and Nancy Spencer in San Lorenzo, New Mexico. So they were collecting pinhole photographs from all over the world. They did this for, like I said, 28 years, and they published Pinhole Journal. When they ceased publication of Pinhole Journal, they wanted to find a home for the works. Palace of the Governor's Photo Archives was on top of the list. We looked at the collection and said, we've got to have this. This is the world's largest collection of pinhole photography.
Coming in here, we are super inspired. Kenny and I know, we know what we're doing when we get home. We're making pinhole cameras. Exactly. As I'm sure you guys watching are going to do too. Little matchbox, little ingenuity.
Could be anything.
Could be anything.
Take your iPhone box, put a pinhole in it, put some film.
There you go. There you go. So folks, come out to the Palace of the Governors, check out the Poetics of Light show, and explore history where it happened. One of my favorite exhibits I've ever seen, and this is I got because I was asking them, do you guys have prints? I hope they start selling prints, but this is the best that I could do. My little explosion, the first detonation of the atomic bomb, the mixture of the highest of technology and the most rudimentary of photographic technology. So cool. So, oh, it's coming up here. A little shot right here.
Have you ever made one?
I haven't. I know you have, and
I
you were a little shy to share it.
Well, okay, so here's what happened. I took a photography class when I was in high school. Mr. Ondrick, shout out to Mr. Ondrick. And that was our first assignment, was
Yeah.
Pinhole Photography. And then, but we had these like notebooks that we had to do art in, and one of my art pieces was I cut up my pinhole photo and I glued it in
But
there.
you
It was
could
terrible.
do another one though.
I
Anyway.
could, I would love to, yeah.
Folks, get one of these, the Culture Pass Challenge. It is an awesome thing. Only $25 gets you into 14 museums and historic sites throughout the state. Head over to casa.com, click on the Style tab for more information. All right.